Shalom, Akim, Shalom. I'm trying to make sure we live. You know, be lagging. You'd be like, am I live? It's not pulling up. Yo, hit that link and see if it's pulling up for you. It's not pulling up for me.
Oh, let me find it. Are you on Remnant Saved?
No, I'm on GMS Faith Base.
Okay, let me find it.
Okay, yeah, we up. Shalom, Akim, Shalom. First off, I want to say call halal, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakah, Padash. Send double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and salutations to all you Akim out there pushing the word in sincerity and truth. It's the brother Ariala. You see, I got the beautiful brother Require Corn with me. Once again, we're gonna run back another World War III Algo. This one, the last one, it was more of a comprehensive look. We touched on kind of the idea of the MOTB being pushed. And we're still gonna touch on that a little bit, but today what we wanted to do is just do a simple look into this conflict that Russia is having with Ukraine, talk about its prophetic implications, but also just kind of highlight how when you look at war, there's a lot of buildups to war. You know, and to me and Required Quorum, you can chime in on this. One of the greatest examples of how war is built, it was World War II. World War II has so many things happening before it actually popped off that it was really World War II was starting right after World War I ended, like immediately after. It was just building right back into another war, you know, and so it's a good way to kind of look and see how wars build themselves, and you have these geopolitical issues, and you have these economic issues, and in this particular issue, they're stuffing down your throat that Russia's just killing everybody, and they're bombing babies, and it's so much propaganda within this so-called invasion that for us watching this, we know, like, hold on, y'all doing too much. What's up with what's going on? You know what I mean? So yeah, it didn't pull up.
Oh, it's not letting me post the link. I'll give it to you and you can put it in the
Yeah,
description.
post it into the private chat and then I'll post it.
Okay,
So there's so many things. So what we want to do is cover a few things. Brothers have been touching on this. We've been gathering a lot of information. When we do these algorithms, I want you brothers and sisters to understand the video clips that we showing y'all is literally maybe 15% of the videos that's being watched to get all the information together to do, even if it's a 90-minute video. There was, you know, hours and hours and hours worth of material that was consumed to digest, to bring to you. So we try to consolidate things down and put it. So that's why it's so information packed. The purpose of these algorithms is for you to come to these algorithms if you really want to get like a good, strong understanding of what's going on here and how prophetically it comes together. You can come to one of these videos and get a good, well-rounded understanding. Okay. Did you have opening statements and comments?
Nah, he said what needs to be said.
Good. So, you know, we want to just hit the information today. Try not to be too long-winded, but hey, listen, y'all know how we get with these algos. This is fun for us. So we might be here for a second. I want to open up with a scripture, and then I'll pass it off to you, bro, if you have some opening things you want to come with, okay?
Khan.
This is Psalms chapter 10, verse 1. It says, why standest thou far off, O Lord? Why hidest thou thyself in times of trouble? The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. For the wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blesseth the covetous, whom the Lord abhorreth. The wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after the Most High. The Most High is not in all his thoughts. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. He hath said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall be, for I shall never be in adversity. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. And this is what we're seeing with when we look at the news. When we're looking at what's going on, when you look at the left, CNN, MSNBC, you look at the right, Fox News, okay? You look at alternative media on social media, you look at the propaganda. I posted into the chat how many clips of fake bombing videos that have been posted to social media. Videos of jets flying, or supposedly jets flying over the Ukraine, but really it's a military parade from 2016. Paratroopers coming out the sky, apparently descending upon the people of Ukraine, but it's some Russian event from years ago. There's a lot of propaganda going on, and there's a reason for it. But behind it is deceit, cursing, and fraud. Mischief and vanity is being pushed for a particular agenda. But what we've been telling you is that Esau is doing this thinking that he's going to get away with it, but he's actually laying a snare for himself. Okay, it's beautiful, brother Jim. As Vegas brought out Job 15, I was going to pull that one. Okay. Verse 8 says, he sitteth in the lurking places of the villages, in the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. He lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth him into his net. Okay? And so this is what we're seeing right now. We're seeing so much. There's a new boogeyman now. Now Russia is the new boogeyman. And they're going to utilize the fear of this super military power that has all this oil and they have all this might to make the world afraid and say, because of Russia, we need to do this, we need to do that. Because of Russia, the economy is doing this, the economy is doing that. So here is the solution. And what's very interesting that people need to understand is that Russia is in on it. They're the bad cop.
Yeah, they're down with my man Klaus, man.
That's right.
Satan.
They're all in on it. But because Esau always goes at war with himself, eventually they're going to fight. Trying to, who's going to control this new digital world? That's what they're going to fight over. They're not going to go to war right now over this little skirmish in Ukraine. No, there's a higher agenda that they're trying to all achieve. But Esau's so greedy, they're going to go to war when that happens. Okay?
Yeah, because the Most High is the one that's in control at the end of the day. He's gonna put it in their hearts to fulfill his will.
That's right. That's right. So did you have anything that you want to open up with?
Yeah, I was just gonna. I think it's best if we go into this oil and the scriptures and perspective. There's a lot of people just coming into this truth. You're finding out you're a Hebrew Israelite, and there's a reason we call it the truth, because when you're in the world, you are subject to a lot of lies and deceit. And you'd be surprised, even us, like, we still finding out things that Esau lied about.
Mm-hmm.
And we probably ain't gonna find out all that Esau lied about until the kingdom. This man has been running a big game. That's why the scripture said, the brother posted Psalms 144 and 11.
Mm-hmm.
It says, rid me and deliver me from the hand of strange children, whose mouth speaketh vanity, and their right hand is the right hand of falsehood. So Esau's all about manipulating people with lies, and this oil thing is actually an example of that. Let me share my screen, Ark. Let me show some of this.
I got you.
Thawada. All right, so where we at? So going into this oil isn't really a new thing. Oil is actually mentioned in the scriptures. Let me pull this up where we at. Genesis. All right, so
can you zoom into that just a little bit, Baba Kusha? Oh yeah, that's it right there. I'm old, man. You gotta zoom in.
Right. So if we go here to, let's pull these up as we go along so I can get them all correct and lined up. Go
Yeah, I
pitch. All
remember
right.
you went. I remember you went in on this some years back, and I was just like, wow.
Yep. Yep, because it's there in the scriptures. So let's speak about this pitch thing. So this is Genesis the 6th chapter. All right, Genesis 6 and 14. It says, "Make thee an ark of gopher wood, room shalt thou make in the ark, and shall pitch it within and without with pitch." Okay, so we gotta look up what pitch is. Yeah. So let's look that up. Pitch.
Check this out. Check this out, Akian.
All right. So the Hebrew word there, what's that? Kapah.
Bar. Mm-hmm.
All right. And then it says, wait, wait, wait. Have I looked at the right word? Hold on. With it.
Yeah, that should be it. Was that the
So
right precept?
yeah, I don't know if they've pulled up the right word for
Go to the
pitch.
lexicon for the word pitch. Type
Okay,
in
yeah.
pitch. Y'all learn how to use this lexicon today. Look at that.
Pitch. Which one are we looking for? It should be this one, I think.
Yeah.
Psalms 1 HD 22. There we go. Yeah, it should be this one.
What scripture is it linked with?
Is Exodus 2 and 3 and Isaiah 34 and 9.
Yeah, I think the Isaiah 34 and 9, that's the one you went in on, right?
Yeah, and the one in the Genesis 11 as well. So I'll get that one as well. Give me a second. Genesis with the Tower of Babel. There we go. Slime. That's the one.
That's it.
Slime.
Very
There we
good.
go. There we go. All right. Okay. Right. So let's start with Genesis 11. So in Genesis 11, it says here, "And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar." Okay. So if we look up the word for slime, there we go. That's the one. Hamar, which tells you is slime is pitch, asphalt, or bitumen. Okay. This is oil. This is crude oil. So if we go down into,
Now, I know there's a process, and I remember Apostle Ramla talking about this. One of the apostles said when they used to heat these stones with this pitch or with this oil, it will harden it in a certain way and make it usable to build with.
yeah,
Okay.
because you can make something waterproof with pitch, with tar. It's the same thing they build the roads with.
Mm-hmm.
Like the roads are made with tar and they become hardened. You know, if you ever fall off your bike on the road, you'll find out.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah,
says
because
bitumen, which boils up from
petroleum.
this. So like,
I just want to make a point real quick: is that petroleum is not just used to put in your car. Petroleum oil is used for so many things. You know, right now, this right here, this bottle, plastics, a lot of that is byproducts of oil that they use to make this type of stuff. I just wanted to make that point.
yeah, they what's it called? Fractional. What's it? Forgot the name of it. It's a process you break down the complex hydrocarbons into you know, different ones. Right, so you got bitumen, which boils up from the subterranean fountains like oil or hot pitch in the vicinity of Babylon and also near the Dead Sea. And from its bottom, it afterward hardens through the heat of the sun and is collected off the surface of the Dead Sea, which hence receives the name of lacus aphalitis. So over there in Iraq, in ancient Babylon, you had oil fields. What do you have in Iraq today? the same exact oil fields, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what the reason why we're bringing this out is to show you that Esau's a liar. So the way Esau tells you that oil is produced in the earth is through a process that takes millions of years. They tell you that oil is produced by organic material which is buried in the earth, and over millions of years it produces oil. Now, here it is that we're reading in the book of Genesis, the 11th chapter, that there was oil. And we know, according to the biblical timeline, the earth wasn't millions of years old. So, where does this oil come from? That shows you that Esau's lying. The oil doesn't come from the process that he's talking about. Okay, let's get this other scripture here in during the time of Moses, Exodus 2 and 3. And when she could not longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes and daubed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein, and she laid it in the flags by the river bank. So that again shows you that this oil existed in the ancient world, in the Middle East, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
which is where it still exists to this day. So Esau has put us in the mind frame of millions of years and all this kind of stuff, and oil is going to be running out. And he came up with this thing called peak oil, which is why everyone's acting crazy about oil and resources. And peak oil is basically the idea that oil is a finite resource and it's running out. And this is what's driving all this manipulation and this problems that we're seeing with the Middle East and all over the world, because they're treating oil like it's running out, which in actual fact it's not. It's all a lie. But it's that shows you the level of deception that Esau has. Okay,
That's right.
that's why you can't go by everything Esau says. Yeah, you got to be renewed in your mind according to the scriptures, because if you believe in the scriptures, there's a lot of things that Esau teaches us that you'd know, nah, that ain't right. Because if you knew the scriptures, you'd understand, well, hold on, like oil can't be produced over millions of years, because during the Tower of Babel they were using oil.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know the scriptures, you go into the book of Second Esdras, it tells you that the earth, this age, is divided into 12 parts. Let me see if I got that lined up. Yeah, Second Esdras, the 14th chapter, it tells you that this age. Let's get that.
Yeah, and if it took millions of years to produce oil, we'd be out. It'd be over with. Esau would have used it all because he doesn't stop. Do you know how many millions and millions and millions of barrels of oil are consumed every day?
It's crazy.
If the oil is not being used, we shouldn't be using oil for energy. That's actually backwards.
Yeah, it's not. It's only convenient for Esau. It's just
Mm-hmm.
convenient for him, for what he wants to do. So this is Second Esdras 14 and 11, real quick.
It's like drinking blood for as an energy drink
Quench your thirst.
to quench your thirst. That's right.
It says, for the world is divided into 12 parts, and the 10 parts of it are gone already, and half of a 10th part. So what that really is breaking down is, during the time of Esdras, which was during the time of the Babylonians, the earth, the world, the age, right, was really only about 10,500 years old. This is the true biblical timeline, whereas Esau's timeline is all about millions and billions of years, and that's all a fraud. Okay, and we can prove it other ways. Like, for instance, you got the idea of the three age system. So you got the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, and the Iron Age. And when you're growing up, they drum this into your head. Oh, Stone Age, oh, Neanderthal. None of that exists. There's no such thing as the Stone Age. There's no such thing as the Bronze Age, and there's no such thing as the Iron Age. Okay, this is something that he made up, and then he made something called prehistory, where there's no such thing as prehistory. There's only recorded history, which recorded history matches the timeline of the Bible. Prehistory is something he made up to try and undermine the Bible, and we can prove it with the Bible, because if you go to the book of Genesis, the 4th chapter, and we read about Cain's descendants, All right, it's right here. Let's read it. Okay, this is Genesis 4:22. It says, and Zillah, she also bare Tubal Cain, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron. And the sister of Tubal Cain was Naamah. So that proves that way back then, before the flood, they knew the knowledge of metallurgy. But Esau will tell you, oh, that was the Stone Age. There was Stone Age, Bronze Age, all this garbage. No, mankind was given these knowledges very quickly. Okay. In fact, if we go to Sirach, the 39th chapter, it tells you, verse 26 says, the principal things for the whole use of a man's life are water, fire, iron, and salt, flour of wheat, honey, milk, and the blood of the grape, and oil, and clothing. Yeah. So we had the knowledge of all these things from the very beginning. It's the principal thing. All right. Our forefathers knew that, even going back to Adam, they knew about all these different things about iron and copper and all these things. But Esau lied to destroy the timeline and destroy the faith that people have in the Bible. That's why we call it coming into the truth. Because when you come into this knowledge, you'll find out a lot of what you accept as fact, like you just think is a fact. Like a lot of people think dinosaurs being millions of years ago is a fact. Evolution's a fact. Like, it's not a fact. It's something that Esau made up. First Timothy 6:20. O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science, falsely so called. So Esau's got these false sciences out there. And the funny thing is that this false science he's utilizing to manipulating the world into these crises which shouldn't really exist. We shouldn't be in a crisis for oil. There's plenty of oil in the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even if we look here at the crude oil reserves that they declare, because there's more oil than this. Look at Venezuela, which they have sanctions on. Yeah, Venezuela's got more oil than Saudi Arabia. Yeah, Iran, Iraq, and then we're gonna discuss it going into the video. But even if you look at gas, you look at natural gas, which goes hand in hand with the oil because they're produced in the same process. There's plenty of natural gas around the world,
Yeah.
especially look at Russia.
Yep. It's
All right.
being artificially constrained and constricted for control. And you have to pay attention to the fact that currently the United States is still buying Russian oil, Iranian oil, Venezuelan oil. Now, if we were at war with Russia, you gonna go to the op.
Yep.
You gonna go to the op and buy their stuff if you at war with them. If you don't get along with them, we're
Hell no. It's all.
buying more Russian oil right now than we've ever bought before.
Yep. Even though America has their own oil, because when Trump came into power, he started utilizing American oil, and then Biden kind of turned away from that because they're manipulating this situation, to cause this problem, this crisis. It's crazy. But yeah, go on now. We could continue. I just wanted to show that the scriptures are relevant. The scriptures actually give you an anchor and a proper perspective on the world. Without the scriptures, you'd believe in Esau. This is gonna run out, and that is gonna run out, and this is the end of the world, and this is a crisis. It's like, no, you're lying.
Right. And so what we're seeing is an artificial crisis being constructed right in front of our face for control, for manipulation, and because it's prophecy. The prophecy said that he was going to come with craft, deceit, and we're just exposing one aspect of his deceit. One aspect of his deceit is that is the whole thing with oil, and they're utilizing it to drive the economy into hyperinflation. Russia is being used currently as an economic ploy for economic collapse. They're the scapegoat, and they've chosen to be the scapegoat. right? It's a coordinated move right now. And so what we want to do is kind of touch on that, go over the history, what's been going on with the previous algorithms. And I know I've done some algorithms on the petrodollar systems and how it connects with the banking systems. And all rulership is how to move goods, who's in control of moving goods and services from one point to another. Mostly that's what rulership is. When you go and you look at King Solomon, he was in control of how goods and services were being moved in this part of the world to that part of the world. When you control that, you're the boss. You're the king, you're the ruler, you're the empire. Currently, the so-called white man through America and his Western conglomerate rule how money, goods, and services are moved across the world. And the other nations have linked on to it. When you read in the book of Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, they've just linked onto it and they call it a global economy. But really, it's a very centralized, specific rulership. Okay? And so whoever runs the field is who rules. That's right. GMS, Cosmeo Israel. That's right. It's a good scripture. Ecclesiastes 5:9. Moreover, the profit of the earth is for all. The king himself is served by the field. That's right. Yeah, the fatness of the earth. Isaac gave Esau the blessing, the fatness of the earth. That's global resources. The fatness of the earth is global resources. And currently Esau's ruling that. So we want to talk about how this plays into everything. And it's a game that's being played. You want to play a game? Right? And like right here, I just like to highlight this. I remember, maybe it was Tazama in our camp made this he made this point, and I felt like it was a really good point of look at the rulership that Adam was given just in one thing. Genesis 2:19, out of the ground the Lord power formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the earth and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And Adam gave names to all cattle and to the fowl of the air and to every beast of the field. But for Adam, there was none not found to help as a helpmeet for him. But the point of what I'm saying is that not what Esau's doing? He wants to rename everything underneath his name. He wants to be the new Adam. He wants that domination and control over creation. When that domination and control was promised ultimately to the nation of Israel. Okay.
And that's why the way they rule is very it's very deceitful. It's very underhanded and deceitful, manipulative. Because they're not meant to be ruling. It's just ridiculous, man. There's a easier way to rule the earth without all this madness that he's doing.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So with no further ado, what we're gonna do is we're gonna open up into now the this Russian-Ukrainian situation, talk about some of its implications and how it's relevant to the World War III algorithm prophecy. First thing, one of the things that brothers always paying attention to is something just don't seem right. I've been using my man Glenn Beck. I got him and a couple of people I always use. Require your quorum. If you ever have a point, just stop me, okay?
Things that have happened, and then I want to, over the next couple of hours, pull this apart and look at this one piece at a time because it doesn't feel right to me. So let's just go over the facts first. Let's start February 26th, which was Saturday. Russian President Vladimir Putin has told both nations that if they join NATO, there will be military political repercussions. Biden administration also said that they believe that Russia plans to threaten to kill the families of Ukrainian soldiers if they don't surrender. Also, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says that the alliance sending thousands of commanders to nations in Eastern Europe near Ukraine. It'll be beefing up arms support and continuing to send weapons and air defenses to Ukraine and reinforcing defenses on allied territory of NATO. Russian state news has announced that Russia is deploying 12,000 Chechens to Ukraine. The Chechens are brutal killers, probably the most brutal on the earth. Saturday, Britain's Ministry of Defense put out new intelligence update on the Russian-Ukraine war. They say Russian forces have continued their advance on Kyiv with the bulk of their forces and are now 30 miles away from the city. Ukraine's Ministry of Interior has asked all people in the country to turn off the geolocation on their cell phones, as Russians are beginning to track gatherings of people. As locations may possibly be tracked even with geolocation GPS turned off, it is best to completely remove the battery on your cell phone if possible to ensure your location cannot be tracked. Ukrainian President Zelensky seemed to hint that Turkey had closed its strait, leading many reports that they have done this, but reports by Reuters say Turkey has not yet decided to close the straits. I believe that happened later. Ukrainian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dmitry Kulba, has responded to apparent propaganda that Ukraine has plans to launch a dirty bomb into Russian territory. Then YouTube blocked the Russian state news Russia Today, as well as other Russian channels from receiving money from advertisements. French President Emmanuel Macron said he has asked Lushenko, the president of Belarus, to demand that Russian troops leave the country. Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered Russia's nuclear deterrent forces on alert in response to Western sanctions and rising tensions. This was yesterday. Former U.S. defense intelligence analysts said that Putin is escalating the conflict into the nuclear domain in order to de-escalate, that is, topple Kyiv's regime quickly due to the fact that his forces aren't getting the job done. Russia's war on Ukraine failed to provide Russia a quick and decisive victory after 4 days of fighting. Russia reportedly pulled their ally, Belarus. Is that how you say it, Belarus?
And I want y'all to remember that they're in the news. They keep saying how the Ukrainian military is fighting back and they're keeping them at bay and they're heroic fighters. And, you know, if it wasn't for the heroism of the Ukrainian army, you know, Russia would have destroyed everything. I want you to remember that point, because it's all propaganda. It's just like the story of the Alamo. Here in Texas, this story of the Alamo and Santa Ana, and the Mexican troops were just these tyrannical beasts. And you had Jim Bowie and Davy Crockett and William Travis. You know, with Jim Bowie, where you get the Bowie knife. And they were just, you know, in the Alamo Fort fighting for the freedom of the Texas Republic. Yeah. And then you go and you actually learn about what happened. They got destroyed in like less than 10 minutes. Absolutely wiped the fuck out. No chance. And it was one of the wackest fights of all time. That was over immediately, and the only reason why they lasted as long as they did was because they was hiding behind the wall, and the Mexicans were trying to get in there. And this whole story of the fight of the Alamo was just really, y'all got destroyed. And this is, you know, and the same thing here. If the Russians really wanted to smack Ukraine, you don't think they could? They could.
Belarus.
Well, you know, they got the air superiority.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the game over. Once you dominate the skies, then no one can't test you. That's a fact of warfare. The high ground wins.
High ground.
You know, that's why America has all those aircraft carriers because the biggest advantage is from the air. Ukraine's air force was destroyed in like a couple hours. That's it. They don't have no defense, which is funny because you see interviews like the Klitschko brothers. You got the Prime Minister Zelensky. These guys are just chilling outside doing press conferences and photo ops. If the Russians was really on smoke, the drones would just take these guys out like easy. Like, who that? Okay, one little strategic missile, and dude's doing a press conference.
He can't walk outside. The facial recognition technology that's out in today's time, you would put that in the algorithm in the drone, it would immediately find your face and kill you. Like,
dude's got cameras. Dude's got cameras and a group of reporters there doing a press conference in the middle of Kiev. Come on, man.
Yeah, his brother says Zelensky doing TikTok videos. Like, come on, man. This is all game.
Ukrainian news. Yada yada. The embassy in Moscow for the United States put out an announcement telling all U.S. nationals to leave Russia, quote, immediately. Lindsey Graham stated that he believes Russia may be ready to level a Ukrainian city with a nuke and kill thousands of civilians to break their will and break our will. He's a moron. The British Defense Ministry has put out an intelligence update that says Russia's ground forces remain 30 miles north. Now, this is 24 hours later. They're still 30 miles from Kyiv. Let's see. Fighting is heavy. British Prime Minister stated the United Kingdom would send 40 million more pounds in aid to Ukraine for medical supplies and assistance to the country. Now, today, the exchange rate for the Russian ruble is now at a record. Joe Biden said last week that he was going to do everything he could to make sure he eases the pain at the gas pump. And he's reached out to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has said no to us. He's reached out. He's close to a deal with Iran. But he closed yet another avenue for oil here in the United States this weekend. Fact number one that doesn't make sense. If you have something and you are really, truly trying to help America and help the little guy with gas prices, the last thing you do is open up the strategic oil reserve.
Can I pull a precept out?
Let's go, champ.
And that just shows you, see, the reason why the average citizen can't see the foolishness because they're stupid. That's the only reason. They're ignorant. This is ridiculous. Like, a lot of times there's things that they could be doing to avoid these crises, but they don't do it. And it's not because they're stupid. See, a lot of times they think these people are not stupid. Like, they're private school educated people. Don't ever make the mistake of thinking that these people are stupid. They're not. They're very intelligent. They know how to pretend they're stupid and do stupid things, but it's all on purpose. Yeah, they have advisors. They had the best people available to them. Yeah, not Pookie from the block. Yeah, this is Revelations 12:12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. You can blatantly see that they're causing crisis, not only in the world, but upon their own people. They're actually making decisions. These different politicians for all these different nations are making decisions which are actually negatively affecting their own population.
Yeah.
That's part of what we told you would happen, is Revelations 12:12. They're coming down with great fury upon the people, great wrath. Why would the man not ease up the gas? Because he wants the people to be in straits. And it's only going to get worse. And then they're going to blame it on someone else. Exactly. So, okay, go on now. I just wanted to bring that scripture.
No, I mean, that's a great point, because that's exactly, That's exactly the frame. That's exactly the frame they coming in, man. And it's just like, wow. It's just like, wow. All right, but people that like to see people still believe in this stuff is ridiculous. Brothers are posting, and if you new here, the comic board is a special place. The brother Great Millstone Daily Bread 411 put wheat markets in sky. Yeah, because wheat and grain is a huge part of the Ukrainian and Russian economy, and the exports are not coming out. So supply and demand, baby. Just like with this oil situation, the United States has tons of oil. So if we have an oil crisis, why won't we just pump it ourselves?
Not only that, a lot of the goods that move from Asia into Europe by land have to go through Russia.
That's right.
And Ukraine by train. So there's a lot of logistics that are being cut off right now, which leads to more shortages, which is scripture tells you that. Oh, that's another scripture that I posted. Luke 21.
Perplexity.
Yeah, Luke 21 and 25. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and on the earth distress of nations with perplexity, meaning shortages. Yeah, the sea and the waves roaring, and you're seeing that happen more and more. Every crisis that is coming is causing every nation to be hard up, to not have this, not have that.
That's right.
Like the the fertilizer comes from natural gas. So a lot of the natural fertilizer is actually exported from Russia and from Ukraine.
Yep.
In certain areas of the earth, we're in the crunch time now for planting crops for the new year. We're in spring. What happens when those farms don't receive fertilizer? Your yields drop by 30%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or it's not even that you don't get the fertilizer. It's just that the cost of your fertilizer is 60% higher.
So you don't even plant the crop because you was already on tight margins. And this is the reality.
And you living off the PPP loan.
So when the scripture says many shall perish of famine, you can see how from the big C into this crisis, it's all adding. It's like algorithm. It's all adding to what we know is already coming.
That's right.
But then I remember them dudes, IUIC said, oh, if we even thought there would be some kind of famine, we would have a plan of action. When we were just teaching, look, we know what's coming because it's in the scriptures. We didn't have to see it back then. Now we're seeing it like coming to pass. Like, okay, this is how it's going to happen. But we trusted in what the scriptures said, man, that the Lord was going to break their staff of bread. And that's happening. So, like, go on up.
It's all good.
First thing you do is open up all of the pathways to pump more oil and refine more gas. The last thing you do is buy oil from Iran and Russia if they are your enemy. If you think that it's worthy of DEFCON 2, then you should probably make sure, since we don't have solar panel jets yet, that you have the fuel in country to be able to fight a war. So fuel makes no sense. The next thing that doesn't make sense, the SWIFT sanctions. First, we didn't do them. And the first thing you do after you cut their oil, which we still haven't done, is cut their banking system, and you hurt them at the bank level. Now that sounds great. However, I learned something new as soon as they did it. Then experts decide to say, oh, by the way, here's what happens when we do that. Shouldn't we have known that last week? Shouldn't some of these experts have been out last week and say, here's why we're not cutting SWIFT. Here's why we're not cutting them out of SWIFT. SWIFT, by the way, is the international banking system, so you can transfer large sums of money between banks. Okay, you can't as a country.
That's kind of not true. What he just said. The SWIFT system is a messaging system. It makes it convenient to communicate, but the actual transfer of the money is not. I was doing a little bit more research, and it's not really what it does. But the whole point of what he's saying is, it's just like, okay, why are we allowing them to transact? The reason why the United States is allowing Russia to transact is because America has tons of assets in the Ukraine and Russia that they're involved in. They're buddies economically. Politically, we're condemning Russia, but economically, everything is tied together. So you can't just collapse one thing without having major repercussions that hurt the elite, so to speak.
Yeah, it even hurts when you really look at it. You got certain places that, okay, they got to give up on the Russian sponsorship. But where you gonna get that sponsorship from now? You just lost some of your income. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, well, how am I gonna replace that income? So it hurts Americans as well. It hurts Europeans. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. But it is what it is, man.
Skip ahead.
On our side. So the banks have a shortage. The banks become unstable. After the Russian banks do, but the banks become unstable here. And I don't understand. Honestly, I'm trying to, I've reached out to people who know these things. I still can't understand it yet, but I will, hopefully by tomorrow, and be able to explain it to you in a much better way. But they're also having to deal in US dollars. And that's how they pay their loans, which makes a shortage of dollars for these banks in the West, which means the solution is for our Federal Reserve to print more US dollars. And we're talking about trillions of.
And this is forced. They want to print more dollars and pump it into the economy to produce more hyperinflation, to produce more strain on the economy, to make you suffer, and to make you want a new solution. It's all coordinated.
And another thing, remember we for the whole last 2 years we've been talking about CBDCs, and
Right.
that is being put forward on both sides as a solution for the crisis. Right. The ruble, they've been looking into the digital ruble for a while. They've been talking about cryptocurrency openly on the mainstream media as being the new system for money settlement and transfer, which we told you already. That's the MOTB. That's the new monetary system. So it's all, the prophecy is all coming through.
That's right.
Of dollars. Now, how does that help us at home? So our gas is going up and our dollar is being deflated even more. Okay, that doesn't really make sense. Here's another thing that doesn't make sense. Somebody help me out. I believe they're E4s. Look that up, Stu. I believe they're E4s, and they may be different now, but back in the 80s, we had E4s. And the first thing we would do when we would go into a country is we'd knock out its power and its communications. You don't want people being able to, the troops to be able to communicate with command. You knock out command and control communication, okay? You also knock out the electricity. It causes confusion and chaos. That way, no one has any information. The Ukrainian internet is Russian companies. Now, why wouldn't these Russian companies be told by Vladimir Putin, please don't let anybody communicate and organize online? Don't let anyone start putting out propaganda of how well they're doing. For God's sake, shut the internet off before you get Zelenko looking like a world hero. Zelensky looking like a world hero. If I'm Putin, I'm probably throwing those people out of windows, I don't know, by Saturday. Why? Why didn't they go in with the jammers? Are the E4s the jammers?
E4 it's a mobile command and control post.
In a plane.
Yes.
Right? Okay, yeah. So they can jam everything and make sure our communications.
Because they don't want to jam everything. They want the Ukrainian systems to keep free flowing. That's not what, you know what I'm saying? You see how this is a coordinated event? You know?
100.
Are up, I believe. Anyway, doesn't matter. What matters is we shut countries down when we go in. It's the first thing we do. Why didn't he do that? Why are we still seeing all of these stirring pictures? It doesn't work to his advantage. It only strengthens the Ukrainians and strengthens the world's resolve against Putin. Am I right?
We were told there was going to be all the cyber attacks and all of these things leading up to it, which
he can shut that down immediately.
Wasn't there something that Elon Musk and his satellites are providing some internet, but that's still...
Yesterday, there was some problems with their internet. More things that don't add up. And I don't know what they add up to.
We do. We know that it is leading up to the MOTB. See, before World War III, there's going to be the implementation or they're going to try to implement a whole new global system of governance and finance where everyone is plugged into it. The Bible calls it the mark of the beast. This is something that's systematically being put in place that all these Edomite leaders are a part of. The thing about it is that what we're telling people is that it's going to lead to these guys literally killing themselves, destroying themselves. Okay? Psalms 28:2, hear the voice of my supplications when I cry unto thee, when I lift up my hands towards thy holy oracle. Draw me not away with the wicked and with the workers of iniquity, which speak peace to their neighbors, but mischief is in their hearts. This is what we see with NATO, with EU, all this talks on we need to, pray for peace for Ukraine, but it's a mixed bag of mischief. Give them according to their deeds and according to the wickedness of their endeavors. Give them after the work of their hands. Render to them their desert. That's what the Most High is going to do. Okay? Because they regard not the works of the Lord, nor the operation of his hands, he shall destroy them and not build them up. All of these things are going to work in an antagonistic manner for Esau. Okay?
I got a special image for you.
Let's go.
Share my screen, man. You're going to see.
I got you, champ.
Your boy here, man.
You see that? Charles Schwab. Charles Schwab is talking to Putin. And he's telling him about the global reset.
The fourth industrial revolution shall be terrifying.
We're coming into a new age, Putin. Are you ready? Are you ready for what we're going to do? And one of the brothers said, Sith Lord Schwab. When they came and bowed before the emperor, and the emperor gives them the instructions on how to take down the Jedi. You know what I mean? Emperor Palpatine, and they go and Charles Schwab, that's Emperor Palpatine, man. Yeah, zoom in on that, bro. Yeah. Bro, this dude is out of a movie, man. That's him. That's him, man. You know, this brother came in with the GMS, the real Jedi. That was right on time, bro. That's him, bro. At the World Economic, see, you don't get to see that part unless you got the right type of tag on. You get to go to the secret meeting, and then you get to see him go into that mode. You know, screaming at everybody. We must create fear. Okay, and so this is what's going on, man. They planning and moving and jucking and jiving. It's all together. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you see the information came out how he was linked in with Trudeau and
Right.
what he was doing in Canada. So it's you got these supranational organization that Esau sets up that's got all these guys, pulling their strings. So
That's right. That's right.
yeah, go on. I just wanted to show that done.
Absolutely. You know I love it. All right. Let me play this real quick.
Must mean that, Putin's truly a nation under siege in a grand scale, scorched earth sort of way. You wouldn't have any of those things. Now, a lot of people are saying,
wait a minute.
Been given this order to try to minimize casualties as much as possible. That's what I'm presuming. Because let's face it, if they wanted to go in there and completely bombard that place, they easily could. They easily have the weaponry to do that without losing a guy, to be brutally honest. You'll notice that the power is still on, the water's still flowing, you still have video footage, you still have internet, you still have comms, you have all those things in the Ukraine. If that was truly a nation under siege in a grand scale, scorched earth sort of way, you wouldn't have any of those things. Now, a lot of people are saying, that must mean that, Putin's a great guy and everything. No, that's not what I'm saying. If anything, they want to use Ukraine as a staging ground for future incursions into other surrounding territories. And the reason for that is simple. It's the same reason why NATO wants to expand its influence. It's the same reason why China wants to expand its influence. One of these blocks of power want to rule the world. And Russia knows that if Ukraine goes, it's basically out of that fight. Okay, it's a bronze medalist for forever. And they don't want to be a bronze medalist. This is why they're taking great precision not to make Ukraine a liability more than an asset. They want to maintain it as an asset. And you got to remember that a lot of the military who serve in the Ukraine and Russia probably know each other from times gone by from the Soviet Union. That wasn't too long ago, 30 years or so ago. So they want to preserve that infrastructure. They want to minimize any begrudging family members who are grieving the loss of...
Yeah. So I want y'all, bro, I'm not going to play this whole thing, but this is a good one. Canadian prepper. He's pretty popular. Go check him out. The name of this video is Warning Things Just Got Insane. Stock up while you can. He kind of goes into that, but he's making good points just about perspective. Like, have some perspective. And this is what we do for the nation of Israel when we're preaching and going through these prophecies. We're the watchmen. We're giving biblical prophetic perspective. And one of the things that the apostles and elders wanted to make sure to establish with those of you that's listening, emotionally, you need to make sure that you're paying attention to the prophecies. Because if you're getting so sunken into the news and it's drawing all of these emotions out of you, bro, you'll start worrying and getting into things that don't matter. The whole point of what we're trying to say is, like, hey, let's take a step back. Let's really look at what's going on. What does the Bible say? The Bible said this, and this is going to happen. We're not skipping steps. This is not a thief in the night moment. Okay, this is a clear propagandized, media pushed war. The scriptures don't say that that's how it's going to happen. Scripture says it's going to be a thief in the night. As they're going through their MOTB systems, these groups are going to fight. And we can get that in Obadiah in a minute. But I want to just go through these clips and highlight these points before we start hitting on a few more things. Okay?
Can I mention something there as well?
Absolutely.
Usually with these world wars, what happens is one nation is attacked and they've conveniently got all these pacts and agreements set up, and so all these other nations jump in based upon those alliances. So if we look at NATO, if Ukraine was a NATO nation, they'd already be at war. Because they have, what's it? I forgot the name of the agreement, but basically all NATO member states have an agreement that if they are attacked, if one member state is attacked, all member states in attack, which by the way is against the American Constitution. America shouldn't even be signed up to that, but that just shows you they do what they want to do. But the situation in Ukraine is unique because Ukraine is kind of like allied with the West, but they're not part of the West. They're like, I don't know, man. You know when you got that guy that they know the gang, but they're not in the gang. So if they get blasted, their man really ain't going to get no get back. It's just like, yeah, he dead. That's Ukraine. You know what I mean? Like Ukraine's not part of NATO. Now, I'll tell you, the scriptures speak about the least of the flock, so draw them out. Let me tell you this for free. If Russia was doing what they're doing here in Israel, we'll be at war.
Yep.
We'd be at war. They wouldn't, and so that's what it's what it's going to come down to. That's what brothers have to. These things are just steps towards that eventuality. But when it's really going to get hot, is down there in the Middle East when them, I'm not going to use derogatory terms. When the when the Israeli state do something that cause them to be attacked by Iran or Syria or one of those alliances down there, they're going to attack Israel. Israel's going to fight back. America's going to jump in, and then Russia has to jump in because Russia actually has an alliance with Syria, a mutual defense alliance with Syria, Iran, and Hezbollah. So if Iran is attacked, Russia will, and they have shown that Russia will defend their allies. That's one thing that has been proven, that Russia will defend all of their allies.
That's right.
So we have to bear, like the brother's saying, we have to keep prophecy in mind and understand that, yeah, this it's exciting and it's another step towards what we're looking for, but there's more steps to come. So we have to break it down the right way.
Yeah. It's all a part of the algorithm. And so if you've made it to this far, congratulations. You're an hour into an algorithm. My brother Gmsdallas, sit down. You've been riding. We're just now starting to get into the meat of the information. I'm gonna pull up this clip. We're gonna rapid fire multiple clips.
Salakia, I want to highlight that scripture as well.
Whatever you need to do, brother.
It said, Gmsdallas sit down, said he shall be a God unto them, and that's exactly what we've seen. Remember, Libya, Russia dropped the ball. Yeah, they dropped the ball on Libya, and we see that my man Gaddafi got sodomized by a bayonet because of it.
Mm-hmm. And they've been strengthening up Libya ever since.
Yeah, they dropped the ball, but then what happened in Syria, which we're gonna go into, which like ultimately what happened in Syria led to what's happening now in Ukraine, because the Nord Stream pipeline, right, wouldn't really be of significance if America and NATO had replaced Assad in Syria, because what would have happened was, real quick, you see this image right here, these are gas pipelines.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna get to that.
Oh, we're gonna get to that. Okay,
we're gonna get to that. I got you, bro. I got you. We're gonna get to that.
All right, let's keep it going.
I just want to highlight. I want to highlight the propaganda part and then get into the reality of the situation, because the propaganda part is a big piece of controlling the minds of the people and getting them to accept the MOTB. So this guy right here, he had another, didn't he have another channel out?
Bro, that's what I'm saying. That's his actual channel. He's basically MGTOW. This guy's Coach Red Pill, dog.
Yeah, so he moved because he wanted to get them white girls in Russia. That's what happened. That's right. He moved just because of pussy.
Or business. I don't know. He got a family over there, apparently, but I don't know.
You know why he moved, bro. Come on, bro. That's why he moved, bro. He learned that women's psychology and took this shit to Ukraine. Shit, fuck this shit. But anyway, so he's over in Ukraine right now talking, right? But just listen to some points that he's making.
February 26th.
and it's the third day of the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. Now, people in the United States do not seem to understand what is going on insofar as Russia's invasion is concerned, because they keep saying that Russia is failing, which is the weirdest comment. Russia is failing because Russia hasn't taken out the infrastructure of Ukraine, hasn't hit the electrical grid, hasn't destroyed the cell phone towers or the water supply or something like that. It's remarkable. They keep insisting that the Russians seem to advance and then retreat whenever they meet any resistance. And it's just a failure of imagination on the part of so many American commentators that they do not seem to understand what Russia is really doing with this invasion. Because you see, the American mode of war is to go to a country and destroy everything. Destroy the electrical grid, cell towers, the water supply system, everything. Just destroy the whole thing. And then roll in. That's not fighting a war. That's just mopping up the total
You gotta pause it.
of a country. And the United States has done this repeatedly in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Libya, in Syria, or the
You got it, bro.
Yeah, I was just going to bring two scriptures, man, because he said that the modus operandi of America is to completely destroy where they invade. With two scriptures real quick, Jeremiah 50 and 23, it says, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Yeah, America was that hammer of the whole earth. Another precept real quick, Isaiah the 14th chapter, Isaiah 14 and where was it? Hold on. I'll find it. Yeah, Isaiah 14 and 17, that made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of their prisoners. So, you look at America, anywhere they invade, shock and awe. They just obliterate the place, got the place looking like Swiss cheese. It's looking like Outworld.
Mm-hmm.
Looking like Mad Max, so he's made that observation, like when when America turns up to your city, listen, it's best to just move out because they're about to get busy.
Yeah, they're about to go in.
Yeah, they be leaving your town looking crazy. Your town looking like Mars. But anyway, yeah, Khan, I just wanted to make that point in the scriptures because he made that observation.
Absolutely. Let's get back to it. He's gonna make a lot of good points, actually.
I tried to do it in Syria. I mean,
and it was to me what's interesting is that he's in one of the cities that's being invaded right now, chilling in a hotel. He's got internet. He's doing all this, bro. If they was at war like that, you think he'd be able to do this? Yeah,
kind of like a despicable way of making war, right? But what are the Russians doing? Well, see, the Russians, they don't want to destroy Ukraine. No, they don't want to destroy it at all. What they want to do is they want to capture it intact. See? And they don't want to hurt the civilians. Why would they? From their point of view, if they harm civilians, they just create enemies. And so they want to capture Ukraine, change the political leadership of Ukraine, and install a political leadership that is sympathetic to Russia's security needs and is going to be a long-term ally. But they don't want to alienate the Ukrainian population.
And so that's what happened back maybe like 2014, 2015, when basically they set up a color revolution in Ukraine. They took out the Russian president, the president of the Ukraine that was pro-Russian, and they put in another president that was pro NATO and Western. So now Russia's like, you know what? We need to make sure that this is on point because this global reset is about to go down, and these dudes got nukes on our borders. We need to get this corrected.
Because if they alienate the Ukrainian population, well, the Ukrainian population will eventually overthrow this puppet regime. And the Russians want to install a puppet regime. Let's not pretend otherwise. But they want to install a puppet regime whereby the Ukrainian citizens are more or less indifferent to it. They don't want to install a puppet regime after having made the lives of the Ukrainians so miserable. So that's why they don't want to destroy Ukraine or harm the Ukrainian populace. They want to capture Ukraine intact, change the political leadership, and then let it go. Of course, because they don't want to manage Ukraine. They don't want it to be a burden on them. They don't want that long term. And so what are they doing? They are rapidly invading the whole country, and everybody concedes that they're moving very, very quickly. But they're not hitting any civilian infrastructure. They're only hitting military targets. And they are relentless in hitting the military targets, but always with a certain degree of caution. And I'll explain why in just a moment. But they're hitting military targets. They are avoiding civilian populations and civilian infrastructure. And when they go to a city or a destination, when they encounter any resistance from the Ukrainian army, any serious resistance, they stop and pull back. Because what are they doing? They are encircling. That's their whole strategy, and it's very simple. And if you look at a map,
this reduces the amounts of casualties. And so now what's being reported on CNN and everything like that is, oh my God, the Ukrainian military, they're fighting, they're pushing back the Russians, when actually Russia is just not pressing on you. This is like, when you sparring somebody that's really not on your level, when you just kind of jabbing at them, you jabbing, they might come do something, and you back off, you circle. That's what Russia's doing. You just getting a little work in, you ain't trying to hurt the person. But if you wanted to press on them and hurt them, you could, but you're not. Why? Because they're trying to reduce the amount of casualties, keep the morale of Ukraine intact, but they're going to put enough pressure on these guys to make it to where, like, look, I'm gonna walk you down into this corner, and I'll make you realize if I want to punish you, I can. Okay, and that's when you walk them down, and probably most likely you infiltrate with special forces, you capture key leaders, generals, leaders, whatever, and you shut it down, and then you turn it over.
What the Russians are doing is that whenever they go to a major city like Kiev, like Kharkov, and soon enough they're going to be in Dnipro, when they get to those cities, they go up to those cities and they meet some resistance, and then they pull back. And they allow their forces to start to surround it. That's the strategy they're employing in Kiev. That's the strategy that they're employing in Kharkov. They are encircling these cities. And once they've completely encircled them, what will they do? They'll wait. That's what they'll do. See, if you surround a city, all you have to do is just wait around. Eventually it'll fall, of course. And so the Russians are systematically surrounding all of the major cities. And whenever they come across a smaller town or village, they just advance and cover it and capture it and move on and continue with their advance. Whenever they meet any kind of serious resistance, they stop, pull back, and then encircle. One of the things that they want to capture intact, and people don't seem to realize this, but it's very obvious if you think about it, they are trying to capture the Ukrainian army. That's not why there hasn't been any major battles with, hundreds or thousands of casualties. It's been light skirmishes. For all intents and purposes, the Russian army is tiptoeing into Ukraine. Insofar as air power is concerned,
yeah.
Russians
Pause it there.
Mm-hmm.
And that proves that we ain't gonna get too excited, man, because that's not what the scriptures prophesy concerning World War III. Man ain't gonna be tiptoeing nowhere. There's gonna be bare stink. That's what's gonna happen when they really open. When the Lord put the Spirit out there for World War III, there's not gonna be no tiptoeing. There's not even gonna be a bit of tiptoeing. Yeah, man ain't gonna be sitting up in a hotel all calm, looking like he after the video he about to lay down with his woman and chill, Netflix
Yeah.
and chill.
You know
Yeah,
that's what he about to do. He about to bring in some Ukrainian prostitutes. He about to have a good time, bro. He chilling.
and I got it here. Second, that's just the 15th chapter. Because he's supposed to be in a besieged city right now, right? Well, the scripture says, hold on.
They want the Terrence, but they want Ukraine to join the BRICS alliance. Listen, the BRICS alliance is just a temporary thing. All of these guys are on the same team, bro. You're gonna have to understand this, and this is where it gets confusing. See, what happens is you get the geopolitical and the geoeconomic. And when I say political, what I mean is your military, your war, because it takes controlling people to. You have to control to get the politics. You use war to control politics. So the geopolitical stance and the geoeconomic stance can sometimes get confusing. Like right now, economically, Germany is on Russia's side. Politically, they with NATO and the EU.
Yeah,
So
it
they
was actually quite a big surprise when they actually that was a big catalyst for this thing when they basically said that the Nord is going to be completely cut off, not even just sanctioned. They're not doing it,
it's because they got beguiled.
and that was a catalyst, for this whole thing. So then Russia's decided to take Ukraine's gas because really that's what it's all about. They said, okay, if you don't want the extra gas from Russia, because Ukraine also produces, not only are there pipelines from Russia through Ukraine, old pipelines from Russia through Ukraine into Europe, but Ukraine themselves actually produce a lot of gas. So by Russia controlling Ukraine, they're controlling even more gas than they did before.
Right. And
But
so this is a positioning them to be a key centerpiece of the new economy that's about to roll out. And Russia wants a piece of that. Russia is not trying to be on the backside of something, but they understand that a new economy is about to roll out because Charles Schwab told them.
yep. Let me just get this precept, but I'll let you carry on. This is Second Esdras 15 and 18. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Does Coach Red Pill look afraid?
Yeah. Yeah.
You wouldn't even know he was in Kiev.
Yeah, you would think he was at the Marriott in San Francisco.
You know what I'm saying? So that just shows you that this ain't what it's cracked up to be. But however, we're gonna analyze it the proper way, meaning it's a step towards. But it ain't it. This ain't World War III, like how they're trying to push it on the news. If it was World War III, they wouldn't tell you anyway.
Yeah.
Like,
just to understand it, all these nations are pushing towards the MOTB systems. Not no BRICS, all the EU, NATO, it's all to come to the MOTB systems. That's what they're gonna fight about.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be all of a sudden. It's gonna be a thief in the night.
That's right. Like that's how the Reservoir Dogs, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I can't. I just wanted to put. You can carry on.
There's gonna be a part where we feel like we losing. That's how that it's gonna be like when he's about to fill his belly. It's gonna get like that. Jacob's trouble. And it's gonna be like, damn, this nigga might win. Like a movie. Like, Lord, you can't be letting this nigga win. It's gonna look like he gonna win.
Showers wiped the Ukrainian skies of everything. The Russians own the Ukrainian skies. Any plane flying is Russian. But insofar as their army is concerned, this isn't World War II. This isn't a World War II where the Russian armies were kissing cousins of the Mongol hordes. You know what I'm saying? No, this is the modern Russian army that has the goal of capturing intact.
And that's another thing. You mentioned this, the propaganda. They make you think that Russians are like Nazis, modern day Germany. When the Russians fought against Germany and the Nazis. Actually, there's tons of racist neo-Nazis in the Ukraine that the Russians are rooting out. Y'all seen the videos of Nigerians and black people trying to get on these trains and buses to get into Poland and get out of the Ukraine, and they're like, no, man, get your black ass away. Ew. There's a lot of that Russia is actually eliminating.
Ukraine and the Ukrainian army, because the Russians realize that once they have captured Ukraine and changed the political leadership, they will need an army to protect.
So that's the point on that. I'm moving on. Did you have another point?
No, I'm good.
All right. So now what I want to transition to is the actual, bro, this is all about money, economy, control of resources in the world. It's bigger than the feelings. You know, leaders of the world don't think about tomorrow as far as 2 weeks. They think about how their actions are going to affect generations. When we come into when you come into the truth, you're thinking about when I'm reincarnated, what does the work that I'm doing right now, how will it affect it? How is this going to affect my resurrection with Yahweh Shem Yahushua? How am I working towards the kingdom of heaven? How's my actions and what I say and what I do affect 1,000 years from now? Like, that's really the mindset you're supposed to have. So leaders of worlds, and you know, it's a bigger mindset. It's beyond this earth plane that we, you know what I'm saying? It's bigger. You know, right? So these guys have this idea of a world that they've envisioned, they want to see, and they're fighting for it. And this Nord Stream, the gas pipelines, he's thinking of, you know, they're thinking about a bigger global scheme than what we understand, because you go to work every day. You go to work every day, the light on your gas tank turns on, you're like, shit. I mean, there's things that you just don't have time to think about. You know? This because through the spirit now we're here.
Hello, thank you so much for joining me. We have a special show planned for you tonight because, of course, there is some big breaking news going on in Ukraine right now. Putin has announced a special military operation against Ukraine, and so it's important we talk about it. It's important that we figure out what is really going on and what we can expect to see happening moving forward. So, full disclosure, I did not.
Good precept, brother. Put 1 Thessalonians 5:2. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction shall come upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. All right, so we haven't seen that thief in the night moment. We're leading up into it.
I didn't really see this coming originally, but I did start to. This is not only about NATO. Now I know NATO is a giant aggression against Russia. They have national security concerns, and so of course they're pushing back on the idea that Ukraine would be joining NATO. But Ukraine is not in NATO today. Ukraine is not even on the verge of becoming part of NATO. There's no imminent vote, or that process is far out. So the big question then is, why would Putin and Russia want to invade Ukraine or conduct what they're calling a special military operation? Why would they want to do that today if this, over an idea of NATO? And that's because that's not really what any of this is about. It's always been about, and I will assert this again and again and again, this is about resources, energy resources. And it always is when it comes to foreign war in the United States. It's always about oil or gas, and this is about a natural gas pipeline. And what it is that, and I've talked about it here on this show before, that Russia provides Europe currently with about 40% of Europe's energy. That is a lot. That is a way more than what the United States is comfortable with. And so Germany had actually then agreed to buy even more gas from Russia. This would actually boost Europe's buying of gas to 80%. Of their energy. Russia would be providing 80% of their energy if Nord Stream 2 pipeline had actually turned on. So this was a giant security threat for the United States. I mean, the U.S. believes that this is a problem. Europe wasn't really viewing it as much of a problem. Europe is not worried about a Russian invasion. Europe is, Russia is trying to actually become more like Europe. Actually, people in Russia, the Russian government, Putin at one point asked to join NATO. He was in discussions about joining NATO, and then those discussions fizzled out because the United States likes to have a boogeyman, Russia being a nice boogeyman for the United States. And so we have really sort of cut Russia out from being a part of Europe. And we've been bringing in all of these other countries, Poland and going into Ukraine and trying to bring them more into the European fold, but leaving Russia out. And the Russian people and Russia want nothing more but to be considered a European city, Moscow a European city, and to be kind of embraced inside of the European Union, not necessarily a part of the European Union, but just wanting to be a part of the European culture. They view themselves as European. They have a lot of the same cultures. So that is something that they've sort of they've strived for. But that hasn't happened because historically, Russia has been an enemy. However, that has been changing over the years because Russia has been providing a lot of energy to Europe, and Europe has appreciated it, and Europe wants more of that energy. Europe tried to do a lot of the green energy, renewable sources, didn't work out so well. Really old infrastructure. If you try to go over to Europe, it's a difficult thing to do. So their infrastructure relies on, at this point, until they can modify it, will take them a long time to do. But their infrastructure relies on old school sources of energy. Russia provides a lot of it. So all of this was always about Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. And over the years, the Obama administration had opposed the building of this pipeline. So this is the Nord Stream 1 gives Europe 40% of the energy. Nord Stream 2 would provide 80% of the energy. So the Nord Stream 1 already turning online was a problem. The United States didn't really like that very much, but okay, it was only 40% of the energy that could be replaced. Once you get to 80%, that's a real problem. So Obama opposed the building of Nord Stream 2. Trump also opposed the building of Nord Stream 2. Biden opposed the building of Nord Stream 2. This was a project that had been opposed by every single American administration, yet the project continued to move forward. Europe wants Nord Stream 2. Nord Stream 2 completed in September. So it is done. The pipeline is finished. When it was Obama, it was an idea. Then it started to become a reality. And
this is happening along with what we talked about with the Belt and Road Initiative, that China is interlocking all of these different nations into a land and maritime or sea trade routes and connecting all of these different financial aspects. But all of this is tying into the same systems. We have to understand this. It's all about control. Who's going to control?
It became a full-fledged reality under Trump and now fully completed under Biden. So the United States is in last-ditch effort to stop this pipeline from turning on and giving Europe 80% of its energy from Russia. The United States doesn't like that because the U.S. doesn't want Europe to be more beholden to Russia and Russia's interests than the United States. And once Europe becomes dependent on Russian natural gas, then suddenly when Russia wants something and the United States wants something, like let's say the U.S. wants to go to war in some place and it's like a proxy war against Russia, Europe is going to stay neutral. This would turn Europe into a neutral continent, really. Much like Switzerland, right? They would just stay out of it, like Sweden and the Nordic countries. They just would stay out of things. And the U.S. doesn't like that. We need Europe. We need European. We need NATO. And we don't want the European nations to come about with this Nord Stream 2 pipeline. That's what it boils down to. There's not really any money lost or gained for the U.S. So it's not really about that. It's really more about keeping Europe in our fold. So everything had been done to try to stop this pipeline. Now, Biden went ahead and lifted sanctions on this pipeline back in May. There were sanctions on it from the Trump administration and even from the Obama administration. I believe the Obama, certainly from the Trump administration. Biden actually lifted sanctions on the pipeline. He said, well, it's complete. there's really no point in doing this and in continuing to sanction it. But he did that under a pact with Germany, and that pact with Germany was, but if, okay, we will allow you to go ahead, and now when you look back at it, it was just such a scam. So the administration says to Germany, we will allow you to go ahead and turn on this gas pipeline and get your energy from Russia, which, by the way, in Europe, energy costs are extremely expensive. Like, that's your biggest bill.
Now, the way she brings out the news, I like it because she basically gives a very light-hearted overview of a lot of information that she probably researched. Now, when you research what she's talking about, there's a whole pact that Biden did with Germany, not Biden, but America did with Germany, and it was a lot of stuff in it. But she's literally, it can sound bubblegum just because of the way she talks, but it's a lot, and it's serious as far as worlds moving, as far as nations dealing with each other.
In Europe is going to be your energy bills. Here in the United States, it's like rent, and then energy is, when you pay your gas bill and your power bill, those are smaller bills. In Europe, boy, your energy bill could be bigger than your actual rent or your mortgage. So he says to them, okay, we'll go ahead and we'll allow you to do this, but if Russia has any sort of act of aggression, then that's it, cut it off. You're not going to do it anymore. You have to agree to this. So Germany agreed. Germany said, okay, fine. If Russia does any sort of aggression against Ukraine, or I believe mostly specifically against Ukraine, then we will halt Nord Stream 2 pipeline. And sure as what happened? So now, as soon as the U.S. continued to push and claim that Ukraine was going to go into NATO, or that Ukraine was going to be joining NATO, there's a lot of this discussion, obviously, that was ruffling Russia's feathers. I think there was some probably other behind-the-scenes feather ruffling that was going on. But ultimately, we sort of pushed Russia into this spot where they felt very threatened by, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the coup. So in 2014, the U.S. essentially ousted a duly elected leader in Ukraine that was friendlier to Russia, more pro-Russia, and the United States backed a coup that deposed that president and installed a U.S. pro-Western president instead. And that happened in 2014. When that happened, a lot of Ukrainians were really pissed. They did not like their election to be meddled. They didn't like their politics, their government to be meddled with. They were very angry, and a lot of them started to rise up in sort of resistance and revolution. Civil war kind of broke out in Ukraine. That is when Russia had the opportunity to then go in and annex Crimea. Again, that was, had the U.S. not deposed this president, staged this coup, then Ukraine was deposed, a pro-Western leader was installed, and we've continued to ensure that pro-Western leaders are in Ukraine, which now we have Zelensky. So that first has to be addressed, that's what happened in Ukraine. And then from there, the uprisings continued, and that is where the region of Donbass remained in civil war.
Now, there's a part that I even brought up with the Crimea and the whole water situation. And for brothers that want to research more, just look up Northern Crimean Canal and the water crisis that's going on with the Northern Crimean Canal. That's another reason why Russia was looking to take hold of certain regions in eastern Ukraine.
Remain in a civil war with the rest of Ukraine from that 2014 coup that the United States backed. And they had been fighting for 8 years for independence away from Ukraine. There were the Minsk agreements that said that they would remain an autonomous region. It was giving them the opportunity to govern themselves, to be independent, but to remain a part of Ukraine. Ukraine was supposed to they agreed to the Minsk agreements, right? They agreed to it, but then they never really fulfilled it. And their reasoning for not fulfilling it was because they said, wait a minute, this doesn't sound like a really good idea, because what's going to happen now is you're going to have these really pro-Russian territories that are going to have representation in our government. and we don't really want basically Putin spies. You know, the way they framed it was like, these are going to be spies for Russia or Russian agents, Russian assets from these territories because they're more pro-Russia, and they're going to essentially infiltrate our government and vote against things and whatnot. And so they never really fully went forward with the Minsk agreement. So the fighting continued between these rebels. They call them pro-Russia rebels, which I think is such an insult to say. It would be similar to, you know, calling the American colonies at the time when the revolution was going on, calling them like pro-French. You're like, oh, those pro-French Yankees, rather than Americans, right? So these are Ukrainians that are living, you know, that are wanting to be independent from Ukraine in their little region. And so that fighting had been going on for a while, and the Minsk agreement was not really going anywhere. It had stalled. They'd actually negotiated the Minsk agreement. Right. But guess what that means? That means we're automatically going to have to go to war because they're in a civil war right now. That should disqualify them from joining NATO, but you never know. People are tricky. So this has always been the beef with Russia, and it's been a beef for the last 8 years. So there's been a lot of tension in that region for all of these years because of these various factors. And now with the Nord Stream 2, and this is what it all boils down to. It all boils down to this gas pipeline. Don't think it's anything else. A lot of people are saying, I mean, most people aren't even mentioning the pipeline. I'm so surprised that most people are not even.
And this is what I want you, you know, and you can take over whenever you're ready, because basically, you know, a lot of the issues centered around how to control resources. Who's going to control resources whenever this new economy is goes online, okay? And it's about controlling resources, human resources, all natural resources.
You know, they're thinking, oh no, it's just Putin and his quest to restore the USSR, right? They're just thinking that Putin is this big warmonger that just wants to restore the USSR and the glory, and he's all about glory and power. And that's what it's about. It's just about this pipeline. So Russia's relying on this pipeline. The Russian people have drastically and rapidly elevated out of poverty. One of my good friends is Russian. She's American and Russian. When she was living here in America, said, I'll never go back. It's terrible. She's like, when I was a child, there were bread lines. And, you know, she lived through the hell, did not want to go back. She ultimately did need to go back for a family emergency, went back, and you know, she'd gone back to visit, but didn't live there, didn't really want to live there. Every time she went back, she just stayed with family. She didn't really explore life as a young, you know, single Russian. So now she's living in Moscow. She says, you know, she won't come back to the U.S. now to live. She says, oh no, life is so much better here. She's like, I cannot believe how much better life is. You know, we have cool restaurants, we have cool bars and clubs and great shopping, and you know, we have a European lifestyle. So things have drastically changed for the Russian people. That is because money has gone into the economy. A lot of that money going into the economy has to do with Nord Stream 1. Nord Stream 2 promised an even better life for the Russian people. They're not interested in changing that. So when the U.S. continued to ruffle the feathers of Russia and say, we're going to get NATO, when Russia ultimately then just declared these regions, Donetsk and Luhansk, to be independent, did not annex them. A lot of people were saying that he was going to go in, he was going to annex these areas. I had said all along, he has no intention to annex these regions. He wants them to remain independent. He wants that buffer zone. Then, you know, the question then goes, well, how much of a buffer zone does he want? Because there's a lot of Ukraine, not just that area. There's a lot of Ukraine. That's wars. Russia's actually an ally. World War I, World War II, War on Terror. Russia has been an ally. So it's odd, you know, that we've turned them into this kind of boogeyman. And we have over communism and USSR and Korea and Vietnam and, you know, there's these other Syria proxy wars. But the big wars, they've been on our side. And they took way more hits than we ever took.
Notice, like she's saying, the big wars, they've been on our side because they're all coordinated into a global confederacy. But that global confederacy is going to decouple and deconstruct. We read about this in the book of Obadiah. Obadiah 1:1 says, the vision of Obadiah, thus says the Lord power concerning Edom. You got to remember that these are Edomites controlling these regions. right? We have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent from the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. And when we talk about the beast system, and we talk about the 10 horns, you know, the 7 heads and 10 horns, is China a representation of that? Is Russia a representation of that? No, but are these nations in confederacy? Absolutely. All the other heathens are like, when we read, are a part of this, right? So it says this: the pride of thine heart have deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the cleft of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Thou, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. If thieves came to thee, and robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they not have stolen till they had enough? If the grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes? How are the things of Esau searched out? How are the hidden things sought up? All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding. So everybody that's coming to fill their belly, when we talk about Job, the 20th chapter, when he's going to fill his belly. Now we're going to see this confederacy of all these nations coming together to complete the MOTB systems. They're going to fight, man. They're going to all fight. Edom is going to fight Edom. Moab is going to be up in there. Persians is going to be in there. Hamites is going to be up in there. All these nations are going to come to an ultimate battle. But we have to understand the implications of what we see. The implications of what we see is over control of gas, this and that. And I know you, Required Quam, you have brought out that Nord Stream 2, if you can pull that pipeline up.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah, I had was
not Nord Stream 2, but the pipelines that are in the Middle East.
Yeah, I got it up here. Because all of this, in fact, you know what? Before I run that, let me run this clip here.
Yeah, kind of.
Because this issue of like she was going into, it's a problem. You know, America's like, hold on, we can't have, Russia's got heavy leverage on Europe through the gas. And then Germany tried to increase that. You know, because really they, you know, on a certain level, the European nations are war tired.
Mm-hmm.
On a certain level, because yeah, they're all working together towards the same goal, but at the same time, these individuals in these different nations, they have their own cultures, the way they grew up. So it's like they agree on some things, but they're also their own people at the same time. And a lot of these European nations suffered a lot through World War I and II, whereas America didn't suffer at all. So a lot of these, they don't really want to go to war, but they're going to have to, because it's prophecy. They want to be friendly with Russia. Britain tried to make a deal with Russia to join the EU, and that got scrapped. Let me play this clip here.
Hopes that the long-term answer to countering its dependence on Russian gas could lie here, in the shale gas fields of North America. The United States is now the world's top natural gas producer, and Europe wants the US to start shipping it across the Atlantic as liquefied natural gas, or LNG. At talks in Brussels on the proposed EU-US free trade deal last week, the topic was high on the agenda.
De l'étranger pour nos besoins énergétiques.
We in Europe are too dependent on foreign countries for our energy needs, especially from Russia. Is there an easy solution to that problem? No. To answer the question, yes, I am going to negotiate with the United States so we can import shale gas.
Analysts point to many obstacles. Transportation costs mean the price of LNG is higher than Russian gas. US opponents of the idea say the cheap shale gas should not be.
If you notice there, you see oil mixed in with the gas, because usually the shale gas is above an oil deposit.
exported because it gives American industry a competitive advantage. Still, energy diversification is key to changing Europe's geopolitical relationship with Russia, says Professor Alan Riley of City University London.
Completing the single market in gas and bringing in gas from Qatar as LNG, potentially US LNG in the next few years, making its way across Europe, switching to coal. There's a lot of use of coal now. For US coal, which has been displaced in the US because of shale gas.
Right. So you get the point. They've been trying to wean themselves off Russian gas for a long time, over a decade now. Now, the war in Syria was part of this attempt. That was the whole reasoning behind why they went into Syria. And I'm going to show you, because there were two pipelines which were proposed. You have the Iran-Iraq-Syria pipeline, which was backed by the Russians. Right. So this is the pipeline that you see on your screen in the red, which was going to go from Iran up and across through Iraq, which Iraq is friendly with Iran right now, right? Through Syria and into Europe. Now, ultimately, that would be, again, Russia gaining more leverage on Europe, because gas would be coming into Europe from Iran, a Russian ally, through Ukraine, which leans at that time leaned through Russia and through Russia in itself. The other pipeline which was proposed was the Qatar-Turkey pipeline, which was US backed. So that would go through from Qatar up through Saudi Arabia, through Syria and into Europe, through Syria and Turkey and into Europe, which is all American allies. This is why Assad said, "Look, I don't want to do your Qatar pipeline. I'm going to do the Russian-backed pipeline," and that's why Assad had to go. Okay, it wasn't about ISIS. ISIS was like a proxy to do. It was all about the gas in Europe, but America failed because Russia stepped in. They were a guard onto Syria, and they propped up Assad, which now led us now to this whole situation with the Nord Stream 2 and Ukraine. It's all to do with these resources, and it's building up through to World War II all over again. Well,
Keep rolling, bro. Keep rolling.
Khan. All right. I had another one here just to show you. There was one I had here. Yeah. Right. Because Europe don't really have these resources. Okay. Now, there was something else I was looking at yesterday to do with the Ukraine. Just to confirm that. There we go. So this is what they're not really going to show you on the news, on the mainstream media, but this is an image of Ukraine's pipelines. All right. Now, in red is the gas that's traveling into Ukraine from Russia and Belarus. Yeah, which Belarus is an ally of Russia, right? That goes into Europe, into Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, from Russia and Belarus. But not only that, Ukraine itself produces gas that goes into Europe. So when they decided to stop the Nord pipeline, Russia was like, okay, you don't want the Nord Stream 2. Guess what? We're gonna take over the Ukrainian gas as well, which, as you can see, is mainly in the east. So all this is driving towards a stalemate, which is going to inevitably end up in a full-on war, because these nations are just gathering leverage against each other. But eventually, they're going to have to just fight it out, and that's what it's going to come down to. But it's not yet. There's more things that need to happen, because the elect isn't sealed. Yeah, because that's another factor in these things. It's not just about Esau and what he's doing. It's about also the ministry. This is Revelations 7 and 2. Well, 7 and 1. And after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth. that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. Right now, that wind represents the destruction that's coming. Okay, because believe you me, you ain't gonna have to ask whether it's World War III. When the destructive power that these nations possess, up and up to the level of a nuke. Listen, it's gonna be a madness. Yeah. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice to the four angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea. Because this war is gonna be fought in the earth and on the sea. In fact, one of the things that happened during this skirmishes was a few merchant ships were destroyed, which is another thing that's going to destroy the logistics for food and different resources throughout the earth. Saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. So this World War III can't happen until the Lord sealed the elect. This is why this ministry is of importance, because this is a real work that the Lord is going to complete, and he's going to complete the number. Now, once the Lord seals the elect, then all these things are going to happen fast. It ain't going to take much. It says, and I heard the number of them which were sealed, and they were sealed 140 and 4,000 for 4,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. All right. So at the end of the day, man, we're watching these things as they're unfolding. We're gaining an understanding of what's going on. We're seeing how prophecy is unfolding and going forward. But this situation in the Ukraine, it's going to be another stepping stone towards World War III. And it's going to put these nations on a footing where there's certain agreements that they're going to have to agree to going down the pipeline, like the MOTB system. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to be still seeking leverage over each other, especially when you're talking about the Middle East. The Middle East is very important. Now, at the moment, the most important nation in the Middle East is the Israeli state.
Yep. And so what you're seeing is a lot of positioning, but it's a lot of economic positioning for a rollout of the MOTB systems. And so that's what we're highlighting. We're going through all this information to give you a more in-depth view. That's the whole purpose of the algos, is to kind of go into the prophecies, but go into the news and information and show you the different pieces of how everything comes together. But ultimately, what we're seeing with this situation is more of an economic move than it is like war, But war is coming because they're gonna still fight over who gonna lead, who gonna win, who's gonna eat the most. They're gonna fight over the big piece of the chicken, so to speak.
Yep. And if you look at it, like ultimately, like we said in previous algorithms, once America can't put sanctions on these nations, they don't have that viability. The only thing they have left is their military. Once the dollar reserve is gone and all these things are gone, the only thing America is going to have left at the end of this deal is their military, and they're going to have to use it. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these other nations don't like America, man. They don't like the way things have been. Like, even though it's all been orchestrated and manipulated by the elites, there are still real people in these countries that have had to deal with the way things have been going. There's a real sentiment of hatred within Russia and China and these places, even among officials for America. They've drank the Kool-Aid too.
Yeah.
Same thing, vice versa. And let me tell you this, the propaganda is strong. Like,
very.
Bro, there's people that hate Putin like he's the devil right now. There's actual people. Like, I was in work, right? And one guy just came up to me and said, I feel like killing some Russians. I was like, what? What's this guy talking about, man?
Wow.
And then I went into the locker room and I saw a newspaper, and Putin's face was crossed out on there, and someone drew devil horns on his head. Then I turned the page and they did it again wherever he was. I was thinking, yo, these people are really in their feelings. Like, it's real. This witchcraft, this enmity that is mainly being manipulated through propaganda is going to manifest itself in the reality of a war. That's why the scripture says Gog and Magog. In fact, let's get that.
What you talking about? Job 20?
That's it. Revelation's the one I want.
I'm talking about Revelation 20.
20 and 8. Yeah, I got it here. Revelation 28. Well, let's start from verse 7. And when 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. And that's why we break down to you that who is Satan? Satan is talking about Esau, Edom. This whole situation wasn't manipulated by nobody else. The elites, which is they're supernatural, supranational, meaning the elites of this society don't have a nationality. The top elites don't have an allegiance to America. They don't have an allegiance to Russia. They're just Edomites. Yeah. And they manipulate the leaders and the economies and the industries and all these things of these different nations the way they want. You know,
Mm-hmm.
at the top level. I'm talking about at the super elite level, the top of the pyramid. They don't have some of these dudes below do have a national interest. They're just being manipulated. Like Putin, that dude believes in Russia, but he's being manipulated. You know, that dude, Benjamin, not a real Jew. Listen, that dude believes in the state of Israel, but he's being manipulated. He's a puppet. He's playing his role that the higher elites like Klaus Schwab and that manipulate them, and they know, okay, if we do this, he's gonna have to do this, and blah 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 blah. That's how they work things out. They pigeonhole people and put their back against the wall and tell them this is what you need to do, and they do it, right? But where was it? Revelations. Satan is talking about Esau, Edom, and he was loosed right through the Renaissance era. He came out the Renaissance era. He gained power over these individual European nations. He formed he did colonization. The entire modern world is manufactured by Esau, Edom. It wasn't manufactured by no one else. If you go to Africa, most of these African nations, Esau named them. He created their borders. If you go to South America, Esau created those borders. He named them. Who named it Argentina? Who named it Brazil? Who named it Mexico? Who named it America? Yeah? We think about it. Was it Jake? Like, because you Jakes kind of think you're like you Jay-Z. Like, you look up. Jay-Z ain't nobody, man. Jay-Z is not making a dent in this world. He's a tool of the elites. They've used him to manipulate you, Jake. But what does he do? Does he create nations? Does he sit there in his little rap lyric book and create wars and manipulate situations like this? No. Esau was loosed. Satan was loose for a season. And what did he do? The scripture tells you, and shall go out to deceive the nations, him and his clandestine operations. Esau in everybody's ear, manipulating the various leaders of the world to drive the nations to do different things. That's why he's got the CIA and the MI6 and all these agents and all these clandestine operations and Freemasonry. It's all Esau deceiving people and telling people to do this and telling them to do that and deceiving the people with propaganda. The man has literally perfected the art of psychological operation and propaganda. Perfected. Like perfect. Like, talk to these people in the world. They are gone. Like, half of the man in UK hate Putin right now. I'm telling you, like, not half. Forget half. 99% of people in the UK think.
What's the gas prices over there in London right now,
bro? Listen, bro, my energy bills went up 50%, but I got an email last week. 50%. 50%, bro, and they sent it to me like casually. Like, it was casual. There weren't even no sorry. It was just like, yeah, it's going up by this price, and
all right,
don't
let's put
worry.
that in perspective for people that don't. I'm a nerd, so I'm real good at math. So that means if you have an energy bill of $200 in January, that means in February your bill was $300.
Exactly. No doubt, blood. And all they said was, don't worry, we're gonna make it easy. We're gonna increase your monthly direct debit for you. So it's peak, and that was before this Russian thing. That's from the pricing from that was locked in from before. Now it's gonna go up even more.
So
You know,
so Europe is getting smacked.
100%. Like people are hurting out here, you know, but now they're all distracted. And notice how conveniently, you, listen, notice how conveniently no one's talking about the sea no more. The most deadliest thing in history that was
Oh yeah, what happened
that
to
was
that?
transforming like it was Transformers 5 on
Yeah,
like a Hollywood.
Voltron.
This thing was transforming into the most deadly. Ain't nobody told. Where is it? It's gone. And we told you the minute I saw them, the first country said, "Oh, it's just a flu." Huh? Okay, they're ready to move on to the next thing now, and they've just done
Yeah,
it just like that.
it was just
Everyone's
the
forgot.
systems need to be put into place. And we've been saying this through the spirit power, y'all, about Shemel Shada. It's not about no this or that. It's just about the systems that they were going to put in place. And
And
now
on
no
to
one's
the
talking
next.
about it no more. It's out of the news. It was
It don't
breaking
exist.
news every day. How many people was dying and this?
Yep. Now it's how many people in in Ukraine, and it's you see the censorship, the fact that they could take RT off,
Yeah.
and all this different things, and that goes into the even the ESG. Because I was thinking about the ESG score. Damn, if you got any Russian money in your company, you hurt right now.
You
Yeah.
through.
So it says, and shall go to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth. All these nations are going to be drawn into this war. All these nations, like between Russia and America, their geopolitical reach is everywhere, even in the Caribbean. So ultimately, when this war kicks off, all these nations are going to be drawn into it. And it's all going to be Esau's fault. It's not going to be no Negro. Yeah, because they like to blame everything on Jake. It's going to be Esau that orchestrated this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. To gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. Okay. And that's that's how it's going to be. And we can't put an exact timeline on it, but just know that things can move fast from here. The MOTB system is not something that needs to be developed over the next 10 years. This is something that can be brought through executive order almost overnight.
That's right.
Yeah,
So
understand that.
what we're going to see is a massive strain on regional and global economies like never before seen. Europe is about to go through an economic upheaval so quickly and rapidly that it's going to affect everybody else. And first, the Middle East, most likely, and then it's going to start to come over to the west. You know what I mean? So, yeah, another precept.
Yeah. I got Ecclesiastes 12:1. It says, "Remember now thy creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them." Because we ain't seen the worst of it yet. It's gonna get bad, and when it starts getting bad, it's gonna get bad quick, because that's also part of their plan, to hoodwink you, to confuse you with the crisis out of nowhere. It's just, oh shit, like we didn't know. Yeah, well, guess what? This is the ramifications of everything that's been happening. Like them food prices are gonna get more compounded and compounded and compounded. We're talking about what is it? A third of the world's wheat production arc. Is it a third? I think Russia and Ukraine is a third of the world's wheat production.
Yeah,
I
between
thought,
Russia and Ukraine, it's like maybe it's 15 to 20%. It's 20%, I know.
damn. I mean, do you know what that does? How many products? That's bread. That's anything to do with flour.
Donuts? Not the donuts. Krispy Kreme
Bro,
donuts. Not be.
the price is gonna be going up, man. Right?
Oh
All these
man.
things are getting compounded after they did what they did with the big C, and now this. And then we don't know what the next stage of this thing. Like, obviously, you got the sanctions, but you don't know what the next, like the cyber attacks. It could happen next week. It could happen tomorrow. Major cyber attacks happening all over the world, plunging the
Right.
world into chaos, and they got to do this, and we need we need to do this, and we need to do that. Emergency executive orders. Bring Skynet online.
Skynet ready to go.
Yeah.
I got this article real quick.
Can't bring it out. Dog.
I know we're running. We're gonna wrap up here in a second, but I want to bring this out. This is on CNN.com. Russia's attack on Ukraine means the prices are going even higher, by Julia Horowitz, and this was Friday, 25th of February. It says Russian president. Now and then we're gonna find out that you can't even say these words no more. Russian President Vladimir Putin's decision to invade Ukraine could drive prices even higher at a moment when inflation is already rising at the fastest clip in decades. Economists are racing to assess the impact of the attack, which could spark the biggest war in Europe since 1945. And it's not about no war. It's just about straining everybody out. Fuel, subsection fuel. Global oil prices jumped above $105 a barrel on Thursday, hitting their new highest level since 2014. United States oil prices approach $100 a barrel. That will make it more expensive for drivers to fill up their tanks. In the United States, the average price of a gallon of gas rose to $3.54, up from $3.33 1 month ago and $2.66 since this time last year. All right. It says the price of natural gas, which is used to heat homes and power industry, is also spiking. The benchmark price in Europe soared 29% to 114 and 65 euros, or $127.80 per megawatt hour on Thursday. Getting smacked. Going down to food. Global food prices were already near a 10-year high. Now, I wonder if your wages are near a 10-year high. I wonder if your income are near a 10-year high. I doubt it. Now, the Russia-Ukraine conflict could make matters worse. Russia is the world's top exporter of wheat. While Ukraine is a significant exporter of both wheat and corn, they also export vegetable oils. Wheat prices jumped to the highest level since 2012 on Thursday. Price of corn leaped too. Soybeans, which often trade in line with corn, also pushed higher. Egypt and Turkey are top buyers of Russian wheat, but they won't be the only ones affected if shipments are delayed or sanctions disrupt exports. So right now, Turkey is getting smacked. Egypt is getting smacked. A lot of these other nations that are around are going to get hurt. Metals. The price of metals used in a wide range of consumer products is soaring as investors dig into the ramifications of the invasion and weigh whether sanctions could affect supplies. All right, so all of these things are going to strain things out more and more and more as we take a look at this. I'm not going to play this, but this is a good page for brothers to go to if you want to get more information. Patrick Boyle, he's got a video called "The Economic Effects of Russia's Invasion of Ukraine," where he details each particular industry. But what I like in the first 3 or 4 minutes, he talks about the banking systems and its effect and what the sanctions mean, and he kind of goes in on it. Very practical dude, get to the point to give you that information, but I'm not going to play it because of time constraints. Did you have anything that you wanted to touch in on real quick?
Yeah, I just wanted to play this.
Let's go, champ.
The frightening scenario. This is where my money's at, right now. Let's play this.
We all know, but still pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack.
You heard him. You heard him, man. That's your boy.
They like to prophesy what they're going to do to terrorize your ass.
He said the frightening scenario. So like, don't be surprised, man. Look, I got one more precept.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get this one in 2nd Ezra 16 because
Oh
we
yeah,
told
that's
you
classic.
it's gonna be crisis upon top of crisis. By the time one crisis is finished, another one's already started. Soon there's gonna be 2 crises happening at the same time, 3, 4, 5, and it's gonna get crazy. It's gonna get confusing. Scripture said, "Wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of our time." Let's get the where is it? Right, this is 2nd Ezra 16 and 37. It says, "Behold, the plagues draw nigh and are not slack, as when a woman with child in the 9th month bringing forth her son, with 2 or 3 hours of her birth, great pains come past her womb, which pains when the child cometh forth, they slack not a moment. Even so shall not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth, and the world shall mourn, and sorrows shall come upon it on every side." So you see how quickly we transition from one crisis to another, right? Yeah. So this situation here in the Ukraine, as manufactured as it is, just know that while that's happening, there's going to be probably another crisis that's going to happen at the same time. That's the time that we're in right now. You're gonna just see plague after plague after plague to the point where you ain't gonna know which one to keep your eye on. You know, because is it come on, it's crazy with the thing. We ain't never seen this amount of stuff happen back to back like this. This is crazy.
You're in the turn up.
Yeah, it's turning up for real. It's turning up for real, man. No doubt. So stay locked in, stay sober, stay vigilant. Always remember that everything's happening according to the Lord's plan. No matter what these devils do, it's still the Lord's plan. It's all leading towards the return of Yahweh Shai, man. No doubt.
Yeah. We played a lot of clips. We couldn't play the whole clips, you know what I mean? But we played large portions of them. But it was good information. It gives you a perspective of just how much they manipulate the media, and they push propaganda to get you to feel and think a certain way. That's why we always have to filter out what we understand, what we know, and how we feel should be dictated by the practical, rational mindset that Yahweh Shem Yahushua has given us. Don't let your feelings guide you. That's why the scripture says, the heart is deceitful above all things. Who can know it? Because your feelings can go all over the place. But there's prophecies and what the Most High wants, and his intention is supposed to guide the way you have perspective. They'll guide the way you see things, guide the way you actually, because this world is going to give you a whole different matrix. But you got to let the scriptures filter all of these other things out so you can maintain the course.
I was gonna say, don't be surprised if this thing comes to like a Cuban Missile Crisis type thing, and then it gets so hard and difficult that Russia and America make some kind of agreement, some kind of peace deal, and they agree to this new monetary system and peace. And then the scripture says what? When they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction. Then a situation pop up in the Middle East, and it's right back on. Like,
that's what I mean? That's a possibility. I mean, that makes sense. Or this thing that escalate, and it gets to like, oh, we're about to go to nuclear war, but now we just come together for these global peace talks, and this is in the midst of the economy's going crazy because people are afraid, and now we have these global peace talks where Russia, China, and everybody comes together, and there's a global deal struck to issue in the MOTB. And then while they were in the midst of that, so yeah. What you got, champ?
Yeah, I mean, even if you always type in the name Israel and Iran, there's always something going on with these guys, man. Like, even now, I think Iran was warning. I think they want to make a peace deal with Iran to do with their nuclear program, and you know how them people be over there, and they're complaining. You know, I saw an article before. There we go. Ukraine conflict could spark rush to Iran deal. Like, so that situation over there is still ongoing with Iran and the state of Israel and the nuclear program. And these Israelis are firm that they don't really want Iran to get any kind of deal. You know, they're sticking to their guns. Their stance hasn't changed. So don't be surprised if Russia and America, they like the brother's saying, this whole thing with the Ukraine blows over and there's all hell breaking loose on the economic level, and they say, oh, we're going to come together, we're going to bring in these new systems and we're going to make it right. And then all of a sudden, the state of Israel just launch an attack on Iran. Oops.
Oh, sorry.
You know?
You know?
And there you go. You're back to square one. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, the scripture says when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction. So we'll keep an eye on things. You know, the Algo is always going in the
always
spirit.
gonna go. So we might see an assassination on Zelensky. Like, you know,
look at this. Hey, look at this one, Ark. Why Israel faces new dangers. Look at that. Propaganda is always going out. Why Israel faces new dangers in shadow war against Iran if nuclear deal is agreed. You know, so that situation is always there, ready to boil over. You know,
absolutely, man. Absolutely, man. But we're gonna close out on that, man. You know, we're here at 2 hours 15 minutes. I appreciate you. I know it's late in the UK, and appreciate you partying with me, bruh.
Yeah, man.
You know, so what we're gonna do is just close out on that, man. Lord willing, that was edifying. We just wanted to bring some of the news out and talk about it and go into the situation. And appreciate all you Akim out there putting scriptures up. And if you're new, please go over the comment board, write down those scriptures, go read about it, and we're gonna continue to push. So, did you have any closing statements out?
Stay locked in, man. We almost out here, man. We could be out here by next year. Seriously, you know, these things can move fast, you know. So stay locked in.
No doubt. No doubt, man. Hey, with that, man, we're gonna say call halal, Yahweh Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shabbat, double honors to the apostles and the elders. Great millstone, much peace, love, and salutations to all you Akim out there pushing the word in sincerity and truth. Shalom.
Shalom.